Hi everyone, my name is Thomas, and in this video series we are interviewing wildlife professionals to find out exactly what their jobs entail. Now, all of you have probably dreamed about working on a game farm in Africa to share your life with wild animals and to contribute to the welfare of the environment. To find out more about working on a game reserve, we tracked down Hein Schoeman from the Garden Route Game Lodge to tell us more about his wild profession. Hi Hein, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and what your job entails?
Basically, my name is Hein Schoeman. I'm the Wildlife and Game Reserve Manager at Garden Route Game Lodge. And I've been here for almost 10 years.
Okay. What exactly is it that you do on the game reserve?
Well, I'm basically in charge of all conservation efforts, all wildlife welfare, reserve maintenance, everything that's got to do with conservation.
Okay, great. What is the best part of your job as a wildlife game manager?
Well, definitely the best part is the good stories and the exciting stuff, of course, good stories would be having new babies on the property, raising infants successfully if need to be, and then also the exciting part, if we do darting and translocation and things like that, that's also really
So
good stuff. Yeah.
a lot of adventures on the farm all the time.
Yeah, and every day is something different, so.
Yeah, that sounds great. And worst thing about the job, if that exists?
Look, it's hard work, but your environment pays off for that, so you don't really feel that. But I think the worst part is if things don't work out the way you want them to, if you have to make tough calls and things like that, especially with for example, younger animals. We had a case where we had to make a decision to put something down to be more fair to it. You must sometimes think about the animal and not yourself.
Okay, so thinking about the animal is more important than taking away the emotion.
And sometimes it's not that easy. So that's probably the down part.
Then your role in conservation as a game reserve manager, what would you say are your contribution to conservation, and how would you explain that?
Yeah, I think it's a big part, and there's so many facets of it. Definitely the endangered, the threatened and endangered species that we breed here, it's a big contribution, and it's a day-to-day task to ensure their health and nutrition and things like that. Also in the environment, if you look at vegetation control and vegetation management, it's nice. It's a long-term thing, but after 5 years you can see what difference you've made, and obviously research. All the research that goes into it. It's not something that will only benefit us, but it will benefit the whole industry at the end of the day, and the species, for that matter. Yeah.
So you can actually see the impact you have on the reserve of what you are doing in terms of conservation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, it's you're in the reserve the whole day. You're driving around, walking around, and things. So you see it all the time. And sometimes it takes different people to remind you that it's improved because you're there every day.
Yeah,
and
you
don't
see it
notice
each day.
Yeah. So. But it's definitely there. Yeah.
Okay. What qualifications do you need to get in the position where you are at the moment?
Well, there's a few fields that you can take into consideration. Environmental management is one side. Studying to become an ecologist is also a good thing to do. And then obviously quite a new thing that you can study now is wildlife management. And wildlife management basically incorporates all those things into one management tool and one qualification, if you can call that. So that's a good thing. And then I think everyone that works on a game reserve must have a field guiding qualification. Not that they're ever going to use it, but it's a good background.
Okay. Then also practical training on a game reserve or getting involved in anything to do with wildlife. How important is that?
Oh, it's the most important thing. If I look at appointing someone, I'll appoint someone that's got 5 years of experience before I appoint someone that just finished studies. It's just one of those things. The books and the reality can be two opposite. Every reserve is going to be different. Every animal is going to react different, and things like that. So for me, practical is the utmost thing. And your studies create that backbone, for your future. But I would recommend study, but try and get as much practical as possible.
Okay. Well, so you said now studying is important, but is there a possibility to start working on a game reserve without a qualification?
Yeah, definitely. Especially on the reserve side, not necessarily on the field guiding or you know where you work with guests and things. You obviously need a qualification for that. But on the reserve side, there's a lot of ways in which we look for practical people instead of people that's just got A pluses for everything.
Okay.
It needs to be a hands-on person.
Yeah.
Because it's a different job. Sometimes it's dangerous. Sometimes it's hard work. It's long hours. So yeah, practical experience is the key to it.
And probably having a lot of passion for wildlife and conservation.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. I mean, if you do this, it's a way of life. It's not a job. If you, and it's just the industry. Sometimes you have to work until 11 at night. Some days you can finish at 3 in the afternoon. But it's a way of life. So I mean, if you want to work for strict 8 to 5 hours and things like that, you must go to a factory or something.
Okay.
But it's just you work according to the demand of the situations, and believe me, every day there's a different one.
Then also, if let's say for instance I want to do what you do, what advice would you give me? How do I get to the position where you are in today?
Well, I started as a winemaker, so
Okay.
yeah.
That sounds like fun as well though.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. You must make a decision, that this is what you want to do, and you're determined, and first of all, aim as high as you can, and then try and get as much practical as you can. Do basic studies and things, but focus on practical. Go volunteer at places, work for free, get as much experience as possible. Because at the end of the day, if someone's going to appoint you, that's what they're going to look at. They're going to look at your practical time. Yeah.
Then have you identified any misconceptions that people have had about your career or being a game reserve manager?
Yeah, the most popular one is probably because people think it's like a holiday, and
So it isn't?
And you've got the best life and everything, and even though it takes you takes yourself to sit down and just realize where you are, to respect it, because you forget about it so quickly, because there's so many things in the day run so quickly, and you work so hard, and there's so many hours in a day, but yeah, there's definitely misconceptions about the amount of work and time and things that goes into it. So yeah, but it's the nice thing is that if you end the day and you've worked hard and you've done something you love, your beer just tastes so much better at the end of the day.
Well, that do make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Hein, for allowing us this interview. So there you have it, folks. Wildlife Game Reserve Manager, Hein Schoeman. Thank you and goodbye.